These are the shocking details of the 1993 Michael Jackson investigation that divided America and destroyed the career of the world's biggest pop star. What really happened when 13-year-old Jordan Chandler accused the king of pop of sexual abuse? And why did Jackson pay $23 million to settle the case if he was innocent? In February 1993, Michael Jackson stood at the absolute peak of his fame. His Dangerous album had sold over 32 million copies worldwide, and he was launching what would become one of the highest-grossing tours in music history. But a chance encounter at a car rental shop in Los Angeles would soon trigger a scandal that would overshadow everything Jackson had achieved. When Jackson's car broke down that February, it got towed to Rent-A-Wreck, a local garage owned by David Schwartz. Schwartz called his wife, June Chandler Schwartz, suggesting she bring her 13-year-old son Jordan to meet the pop star. Jordan was a massive Jackson fan, and what started as a simple autograph request quickly blossomed into an unusual friendship. When David Schwartz asked how this would affect Jordan, Chandler's response was chilling. "It's irrelevant to me." The timeline of what happened next raises serious questions about Evan Chandler's motivations. On July 14th and 15th, before any allegations had been made, Chandler and his attorney contacted Beverly Hills psychiatrist Dr. Mathis Abrams with a hypothetical situation. Without ever meeting Jordan or Jackson, Dr. Abrams sent a letter stating that reasonable suspicion would exist that sexual abuse may have occurred. Then, on July 16th, something extraordinary happened. According to Evan's own brother, Ray Chandler, who later wrote a book defending the family's actions, Jordan was sedated by his father during a dental procedure. When the boy woke up, he allegedly confessed to being abused by Jackson. Ray Chandler's own account describes how Evan coerced this confession using deceit and intimidation, threatening to destroy Michael and telling Jordan it would be his fault. By August 4th, Evan Chandler was ready to make his move. At a meeting in the Westwood Marquis Hotel, Chandler and his attorney confronted Jackson's private investigator, Anthony Pellicano, with a stunning demand: $20 million in exchange for not going to authorities with allegations of child sexual abuse. Jackson refused to pay. In response, Chandler escalated dramatically. On August 17th, Jordan repeated his allegations to Dr. Abrams, who was legally required to report them to authorities. The LAPD's Sexually Exploited Child Unit launched their investigation the very next day. The timing was devastating for Jackson. On August 24th, the same day the allegations became public, he was scheduled to begin the third leg of his Dangerous World Tour in Bangkok, Thailand. Despite the media firestorm, Jackson performed that night, but the damage was already spreading. Within days, search warrants were executed at Neverland Ranch and his other properties. What investigators found, however, was telling. The Los Angeles Times reported that while videotapes were seized, they were not incriminating. A police source told the paper that the search warrant didn't result in anything that would support a criminal filing, leaving investigators scrambling to find other potential victims. As the investigation intensified, Jackson's world began to crumble. On November 12th, he announced he was canceling the remainder of his tour to seek treatment for painkiller addiction. His attorney, Burt Fields, later explained that Jackson's life was in danger if he continued taking these massive quantities of drugs. Jackson would later assemble a formidable legal team that included Johnny Cochran, who had previously defended O.J. Simpson. 2 days later, Pepsi dropped their 9-year partnership with the singer. The most humiliating moment came on December 20th, when Jackson was subjected to a strip search so police could photograph his genitalia and compare it to Jordan's description. 2 days later, a visibly shaken Jackson appeared on television from Neverland Ranch. "It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life," Jackson said, his voice breaking with emotion. "One that no person should ever have to suffer." And even after experiencing the indignity of this search, the parties involved were still not satisfied and wanted to take even more pictures. It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Initial media reports, citing law enforcement sources, stated that the boy's description didn't match the photographs. Reuters and USA Today both reported in January 1994 that there was no match. Only later did the narrative change, with prosecutor Tom Sneddon claiming there was a match, though this claim was never tested in court. The credibility of Jordan's description was undermined even more when Jackson's autopsy report was released after his death in 2009. The coroner noted that Jackson wasn't circumcised, directly contradicting what Jordan had allegedly told investigators. On January 25, 1994, Jackson reached a civil settlement with the Chandler family. The Chandlers had enlisted attorney Larry Feldman to handle the civil proceedings. The total payout was $23 million, $15 million placed in a trust for Jordan until he turned 18, $1.05 million each for June and Evan Chandler, and $5 million for their legal team. This settlement didn't prevent the Chandlers from cooperating with the criminal investigation, which continued after the money was paid. So why did Jackson settle if he was innocent? The answer lies in the legal strategy employed by the Chandlers. They had filed a civil lawsuit alongside the criminal investigation, and the judge refused to delay the civil trial. This meant that Jackson would have been forced to testify under oath in the civil case while the criminal investigation was ongoing, potentially providing prosecutors with a roadmap for their case. Jackson was trapped between impossible choices: fight the civil case and risk damaging his criminal defense, or settle and face accusations that the payment proved his guilt. Given the media hostility and the financial pressures mounting on his business empire, Jackson chose to settle. The decision to settle might have ended Jackson's immediate legal troubles, but it couldn't stop the criminal investigation. Prosecutors presented evidence to two separate grand juries, neither of which voted to indict Jackson. Grand jurors later told reporters they heard no evidence against the singer. By September 1994, the criminal case collapsed entirely when the Chandlers refused to cooperate, leaving investigators without their key witness. The investigation was officially closed, and no charges were ever filed. The aftermath of the 1993 allegations cast a long shadow over everyone involved. Jordan Chandler legally emancipated himself from his parents at age 14, effectively cutting ties with the family that had pursued Jackson so aggressively. When prosecutors tried to convince him to testify in Jackson's 2005 trial involving a different accuser, Jordan refused and reportedly left the country rather than appear as a witness. Evan Chandler's life spiraled downward. In 2006, Jordan accused his father of attacking him with a barbell and spraying mace in his face. The charges were later dropped, but the relationship between father and son was permanently severed. On November 5, 2009, just 4 months after Jackson's death, Evan Chandler was found dead in his New Jersey apartment, having taken his own life with a .38 caliber pistol. The FBI, which had investigated Jackson intermittently between 1993 and 2005, released over 300 pages of files after his death. Their conclusion was crystal clear: no evidence of criminal conduct was found. Today, as of 2026, more than 3 decades later, the 1993 allegations remain one of the most controversial cases in entertainment history. The case has been revisited numerous times, including in documentaries like Leaving Neverland, which brought renewed scrutiny to Jackson's legacy. The documented evidence of Evan Chandler's extortion attempts, the suspicious timing of the accusations, the lack of physical evidence, and the refusal of the alleged victim to testify all raise serious questions about what really happened. What we know for certain is that a chance meeting at a car rental shop set in motion events that would destroy the career of the world's biggest pop star, divide public opinion for decades, and leave a trail of broken lives in its wake. Whether Michael Jackson was a predator who escaped justice or an innocent man destroyed by greed may never be definitively known. But the evidence suggests the truth is far more complicated than either side wants to admit.